Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I will be doing my wrap up for the TBR Jar Readathon. So this is my second time filming this because the first time I apparently didn't press the record button. So let's just get into it. So first I'll talk about the 2 books that I DNF'd and then the 3 books that I read. The first book I DNF'd was From Hell by Alan Moore, and this one was a graphic novel that is based around the Stalking Jack the Ripper murders. So I was expecting this book to be gory and yeah, kind of a bit gross, but I did not expect that in the first 16 pages, and the only 16 pages I read, there was going to be 3 sex scenes. I have no idea why. They didn't help the plot at all. We don't need to see the baby being made to know that the person had a baby. So yeah, that's one of the reasons I DNF'd the book, because it was unnecessary. Like, I just want to read about murders. I don't need to see a vagina up close in a drawing. I don't know. I'm out. So, there's that one. Another reason I didn't like the book was in each of, like, the squares of, like, the comic style drawings, it was so full. Like, there was so much going on in each square that it was hard to differentiate between the things that we actually need to know and the things we don't. It was also hard to tell people from people because they all kind of looked similar, and like the entire thing is in just black and white, so it was hard to follow the story. And then there's also the fact that it jumps between time. Like, we start off in the 80s, at like the 1880s I think it was, and then we go like 20 years ahead or something, and it's like got different characters, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? It was just so confusing trying to keep track of what was going on, and then also trying to keep track of who was who with the drawings. So yeah, I just didn't like the art style. I didn't like the sex scenes that had no fucking purpose. So yeah, I DNF'd that one, probably never gonna pick it up again. The next one I DNF was The Smoke Thieves by Sally Green. Now this one is not actually a DNF. I will be reading this at some point. But I'm still in a reading slump. So picking up physical books was just not working for me. I tried to read this. I read 16 pages in one day because I was waiting for my mate to come when we go walking every afternoon. And I read a little bit then, but then she came and we left, and then I never got around to picking this up again. And the first, I think it was 12 pages that I read. The 12 pages, like, they were fine, but it was only 12 pages. So there's nothing really to keep me hooked, and yeah, so I put it down and then picked up something else. But it's not bad, it's just I didn't read enough to get me hooked, and then this slump is killing me. So this is going back on my TBR shelf. Okay, just a little insert about a book that I forgot to mention that I DNF'd during TBR Jar Readathon. I did DNF The Kiss of Deception by Mary E. Pearson. If you want to know my full thoughts, I will leave my link below as to why I DNF'd this crap book. And it is also talked about a bit more in my Tome Toggle wrap up, which will be up probably same day this one is, or maybe the next day, I don't know, we'll see what happens. But yeah, so if you want to know more thoughts about why I DNF'd The Kiss of Deception, head either down below or wait for that next video. Now, onto the books that I actually read. The first one I read was An Ember in the Ashes. By Sabaa Tahir. This one was a reread for me. I have read this book physically before, but this time I listened to it on the audiobook. All 3 audiobooks are on Scribd, An Ember in the Ashes, A Torch Against the Night, and A Reaper at the Gates. So I decided to reread An Ember in the Ashes and A Torch Against the Night, and then continue on the series with the audiobook of A Reaper at the Gates. However, this time I did not enjoy this book as much as I did the first time reading it. I really enjoyed this the first time, but the second time I found myself being bored, and I think that's because there's a lot of building that happens and not too much action towards the start of the book. And I think I was just waiting to get into the action because I know that action is there as I've read the book before, but I was just like waiting for it to happen, and I was kind of bored at that start point. So, because it's not until like 2/3 of the way, 3/4 of the way through the book that it actually gets into something interesting. So yeah, didn't enjoy it as much as I did the first time. Hopefully I enjoy Torch Against the Night a bit more because it does actually have action from what I remember, so hopefully that one will be better. The next book I read was Onyx and Ivory by Mindy Arnett, and this one, again, kind of mediocre. I didn't love this, like it was enjoyable, but I didn't love it. It didn't stand out. It just kind of blends in with every other YA fantasy there is. The world was interesting. I didn't mind the characters, but it just didn't like stand out. The next one, And the Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. Yes, I finally read this book. And this one is one that I started in the past. I'd read about 5 hours of the audiobook and I couldn't get into it. But this time I tried again with the audiobook, and I got past that point and was able to finish it. So it is enjoyable. Like, I do enjoy the, like, this part more than the start, which is the first part that I read, the first 5 hours I read the first time. It's okay, but it's kind of like, would you get on with it? And then the rest of the book, like, just after the first time I DNF'd it is when it starts into his actual story. So that's the bit that I enjoyed. I enjoyed his story. I do wish there's a little bit more background to the world, because I feel like they just mention things but don't actually explain things. Like, especially there's like a, they don't call them a dragon, but the word is similar and I don't remember what it is, but there's a something at the end, and like there's no explanation about it besides the fact that people don't think it exists, and then it does, and it's like, but why don't people think it exists? How do you miss this? So there's not exactly a ton of background, which in a book this size I need background, and especially with a high fantasy world. So I was a little disappointed. I don't love it as much as everyone else does, but it was an enjoyable book. So yeah, they're the three audiobooks, let's be real. The three audiobooks that I read this week for TBR Jar Readathon. I will be holding another TBR Jar Readathon probably in October. I put a Twitter poll up on Twitter and asked what month you'd like the next one in, and you guys voted on October. So we're aiming for that one, but I had so much fun creating and participating in this readathon, so yeah, I'll definitely be doing it again. But yeah, this is going to be a short and sweet video. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.